Hello and welcome back once again to Urban X Files. My name is Keith and today's spooky story is all about a girl's experience in a local cinema. Now, this happened a few years back when she took over the job from her sister at a local cinema. It was a relatively small family-owned cinema with about 10 screens. This was designed in a stadium style of seating, so it all focused around the screen. Now, the girl in the story today was not much of a night owl, so she didn't often stay up past midnight. But in this her first job, she was asked to do the graveyard shift, the shift when the cinema's last screens end for the night. Now, at the point when she encountered the ghost, she'd only been working there for a few months. As we said before, she was not much of a night owl, so she hadn't worked the closing shift before. And as she worded it, I know it's a typical spooky night shift kind of stuff, but this happened to her. Now, either way, it was around midnight, and the manager had asked her to go and clean Theatre 6 because its showing had ended and the manager needed it cleaned ready for the next day's screenings. So she went on her way and got a hoover and a brush and a cleaning stuff, and she walked into the theatre and began to clean. Now she was brushing up the bits of popcorn, straws and paper bits that had been left on the floor, the usual typical stuff. Now she'd done the first 4 rows with nothing unusual, and then when she hit the 5th row, she seen what looked like a figure of a man watching her from the first few rows of seats. Now at first she thought maybe she was just so absorbed staring under the seats for the rubbish that she didn't notice that someone hadn't left the cinema, or perhaps that person had fell asleep and went about and just left as she was cleaning up, because she hadn't seen anyone enter the theatre after she'd come in to clean. Now, the figure that looked like a man, when she looked up from the seats, had vanished. So she was a little weirded out, but she carried on and trooped on and continued to clean Theatre 6. Now, soon after the first few rows of premium seats, these were the recliners, she began to wash off these with a wet rag and clean all the sticky bits where drinks had been slopped and sticky chewing gum had stuck under the seat. And she began to scrub away, lost in her own little world while she cleaned. And she once more seen this black figure, but this time it was much closer, and it walked directly behind her. Just then she felt a tap on the shoulder, like somebody was trying to get her attention. And once again, the reason that maybe why the manager walked in and needs something, so she turned around and asked, "Yep, can I help you with something?" Only to be once again met with an empty room behind her. Now she began getting a little bit concerned, and she's starting to think something weird was going on and she didn't like it. Now that fear had begun to set in. She can't help but get these feeling of chills going up and down her spine like crazy, and she always was scanning the room for any activity. Now at this point she was running down these rows of seats and only stopping to see if there was any obvious mess, because she wanted out of Theatre 6 as soon as possible. Now she'd done the exact same thing with the second row of recliners at the top of the theatre, almost entirely forgetting to wash them down, and as she'd finished cleaning the top row, she once again seen this figure stood behind her. this terrified the girl, as you can imagine. So she quickly left the theatre, said goodnight to the staff who was there on their closed shift, and left very frightened. Now, when she was back on a shift in theatre, when she was back in the cinema and she was given Theatre 6 to clean again at the closing shift, she was pretty much terrified. So she popped in her earphones and she went in and she cleaned away. And as she got to these premium row of seats, she once again saw the figure of a man. Now, she closed her eyes, bent down and continued cleaning, saying, "It's not real, it's not real." And as she sat back up, she felt the cold rush down her spine once more, and she felt the tap on her shoulder, where someone was definitely behind her trying to get her attention, only to find once again there was nobody else in the room with her. Now, she said nothing to any of her co-workers or managers, mostly because she didn't want to sound like a crazy person. However, after getting home after this terrifying experience, she told her mum about the situation and saying that she had some paranormal experiences, and she was really intrigued by it. And she was getting into the story, and when her mum said, "Sorry love, you are better speaking to your sister. She worked there and she's experienced some pretty creepy things there herself." So off she went to talk to her sister. Now, his sister said, "Did none of the managers tell you? That's a really haunted theatre." She said what had happened in Theatre 6, which was the haunted theatre, there was a man a few years back who'd gone to see the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And while he was inside enjoying his popcorn and his sticky sweets and his Coke, he went into a heart attack and died in Theatre 6. Now, he didn't realise he was dead until one of the cleaners went in to clean Theatre 6. She went over to the guy who was sat down, who looked like he'd fallen asleep. She nudged him and said, "Excuse me, sir. Excuse me?" And when she tapped him, and he slouched and slumped down, dropping the contents of his popcorn all over the floor and his drink. And the man slumped over. She screamed for his life. So the manager and the other staff had come in to find out what was going on. Unfortunately, the man had passed away of a heart attack. And this is the same guy that she feels had tried to get her attention, working in Theatre 6. Did he have some unfinished business? What was the reason for why he was targeting this girl? Who knows? Have you ever had any personal paranormal experiences that you'd like to share with me? If so, please do get in touch in the comment section or on social media. I'd like to hear from you. And I hope you enjoyed today's short story. If so, you know what to do. Smash that like button. Feel free to subscribe. And see you all in the next video.